Feels bad, man. Feels bad. I love you, puppy. I love you. But here we go. We are loading on in and spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Data Under the Sea. We have El Macaco himself, hailing from the land of Mexico and representing Estral Esports. It's the dad himself. It is Jaime Arturo Duran Silencio JimRising. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Data Under the Sea, we have his opponents. We have the up-and-coming Protoss player hailing from the land of Brazil, representing Amantes de StarCraft. It is MasTeR. Oh boy. Here we go, and I'm so excited. So we were talking about stylistic players earlier and getting into the series with the Zerg Lord. Right off the bat, I was talking about how the Zerg Lord is the more aggressive of the bunch when it comes to the top tier Zerg players in the region. The salt spray gets thrown down. The GG gets thrown down as well. The bans are real. Because JimRising went for a gas first opener, gas pull, and then hatchery. Again, just trying to deceive his opponent, keeping him busy here on the low ground. Oh my god, even gets delayed once again. But we were talking about players being stylistic, and the Zerg Lord, he's all about his Bane all-ins, he's all about his roach timings. That's what the Zerg Lord is about. JimRising is a little bit different. He is crazy. He's known as the Muta King, even more so than Demi. I remember Demi saying, we were shocked to hear, because Demi's known for his mutas as well in Southeast Asia. He was saying that he was inspired by JimRising. So JimRising is the OG when it comes to massing mutas and making nothing but mutas in as many matchups as possible. Against Zerg, against Terran, against Protoss. But even outside of that, like, he's a very unpredictable player as well. I don't even know if I want to call him a player. He's like a he's like a force, an entity in Latino America. It's crazy. So he's always a lot of fun to watch. Always a lot of fun. So we'll see what he has to offer here. Again, going for a very fast link speed. That's also fun. MasTeR has to make sure that there's no roach horn being thrown down. He has to make sure or keep an eye on whether or not we have more gas being mined. Bearing in mind, everyone, that gas is continuing to be mined here in the main base. So I have to wonder what this is going to be used for. I'm sure that Jim wants to make sure that this probe is dealt with first. And let's go! We have pneumatized carapace. We have Overlord speed on the way. Dropper Lords are gonna be a thing. And Queens, they're gonna be going on a trip, mate. They're gonna be going out across the map. JimRising trying to take a third base right now, trying to dance here with this probe. Queen helping out, trying to deal with the, oh god, actually going for an inject first, and then gonna be helping out and dealing with the probe. Behind this, a pretty standard opener from MasTeR. He goes for a Stargate opener. Jim hasn't seen this yet. He hasn't gone for the scout yet, but he does have an overloaded position for this, so he shouldn't be caught off guard. He should be able to deal with this at some point. Meanwhile, the first adept gets across the map, and unfortunately, because of all the dancing, Jim still has not expanded, and he has still not taken his third base. Oof. Jim? No, Jim! No! Look, I was talking about it earlier. You know, maybe Jim's senses have been dulled a little bit after having a kid and after having a child. It's very possible. But Jim does allow the gas guys to finish up. A little bit unfortunate there. A little bit inefficient. Oof. Meanwhile, we do see that Jim has gone in with his Overlord. He was able to confirm the opener. It is a Stargate, and it does mean that everything is coming back home. And I have to wonder where things are going to go from here, because now we have a very fast lair. There's no Roach Warren, there's no Baneling Nest being taken so far. I assumed that because we saw pneumatized carapace, it wasn't going to be the scout, but instead it was going to be for Dropper Lords. But it looks like it was the scout. At least that's what we can infer for the time being. JimRising, his third is delayed. He's working on an Evo chamber, still making non-stop queens, but I wonder what his plans are. Oh boy. Oh, right. Hold on. And it is, in fact, going to be plus on melee. Okay, yeah, okay. I dig it, I dig it. So, you know what? I was wondering earlier if JimRising was kind of accustomed to the new hero style and if he was used to playing against it. And it looks like he is for the most part. I say for the most part because he's going for double Evo chambers, which is not standard. He's also taking a lot of gases, or at least, you know, taking his first 4. He's going straight to Hydras, actually. Oh my god. Okay, interesting. Again, Lynx can do incredibly well against Blink Stalkers. They're kind of like ideal. That's why Oracles play a pretty large role here as a support unit, not just for stasis traps, but also for their pulsar beams to clean up whatever Lynx they can to help protect those Stalkers. So yeah, we're just going to kind of get into the swing of things. Unfortunately, Jim couldn't really apply too much pressure to this third base. He didn't have too many Lynx to work with, especially because of the opener. So from here, you know, we've just been kind of droning and chilling. Pretty interesting that he's opting to go for +1 carapace as well, instead of double attack upgrades instead. Really focusing a lot more on making sure that the Lynx are able to survive and get as much damage as they can. Meanwhile, Jim being punished for his greed, heavily punished for his greed, as the triple Oracle get into the mineral line and they roast everything. 14, 15 drones go down. Even a Void Ray here at the 4th base. Queens are being pulled apart right now. Jim relying on his queens and skipping out on spores and being punished for it. Oof, feels bad, man. And after a rocky start, after a late 3rd, after a delayed 4th as well, we cannot afford to be losing workers like this. After losing 16 drones, it's really difficult to recover. Not impossible is what I will say, but I think it's really difficult to make a comeback happen with Ling Hydra. If there was a Baneling nest, then I would be like, okay, maybe we can see a Bane run by. And in that way, JimRising can equalize in that economic damage and can even things up. But there is no Baneling nest. It's just pure Hydra. Very Miyamika-esque. Oh boy. And because of that, he can hit a very strong timing if he had the economy to sustain it. His worker count isn't the worst. He's at 61, but here we go. MasTeR, he's here across the map. He has a couple of stasis traps to fall back on if need be. Already a couple of Hydras are being focused down, and we just don't have enough Lings. We have a couple of reinforcing Lings coming from behind, and it looks like with us around, JimRising is going to force this back. The stasis does get triggered. We have another one as well. Despite the stasis, I was gonna say, despite the stasis, it looks like JimRising has enough to force this back, and he barely does. Oof. MasTeR losing quite a number of Stalkers there, 8 in total. Overextending quite a bit there on creep. While +2 melee still on the way, Oracle's looking to deal more damage. Thankfully, this time there is a spore at our 3rd base. Hydra's also repositioning relatively close by. Oracles, they don't care though, they just dive in anyway. Oof. Another 8 workers are going down. JimRising in the middle trying to push out, but at the same time Stalkers are hitting his 4th base. He's being pulled apart, and this base is low from earlier. Oof. JimRising forced to make a couple of laser lords there as 4 lords go down. He has to make 6 to get out of the supply block. I still do like his army, and honestly, I feel like MasTeR is bleeding a little bit too much every single time. Meanwhile, the Oracles did end up getting trapped, and now JimRising doesn't have to worry about any kind of Oracle counterattack. Trying to box him in. I was talking about MasTeR like trickling out and losing a couple too many Stalkers, but I can say the same about these Hydras. Hydras are incredibly expensive, and after losing so many drones, like, Jim has to be careful here. Somehow, someway, MasTeR is able to barely escape with a handful of these Stalkers. I spoke too soon. They're being hunted down one after the other. See a little bit of droning behind this, but Jim, he now has +2 melee, so he has the map control. He can push out. Doesn't have enough Lings to be a proper buffer for all of these Hydras. He's gonna take the fight though. I'm not too sure if I like this, to be honest. Hydras are trying to break through all these Zealots, but again, they just don't have the staying power. They don't have too much sustainability at the moment. 24 Lings are on the way, remaining speed on the way as well. JimRising, I'm impressed that he's been able to keep up as well as he has, despite losing so many workers. Goes to show how good his macro can be. Meanwhile, a couple of queens are out of position. They do get taken out by these zealots. At least JimRising is in position to also deal with them. But as he's here to deal with the zealots, once again, this fourth base is exposed. And I'm just really concerned that at any moment, these stalkers are just going to dive in and take out the hatchery. I guess it's a double-edged sword. Like, if these stalkers ever commit to killing the hatchery, they will be deep on creep, and I guess the thought process is that JimRising will be able to clean everything up, but he's just so preoccupied by these zealots that MasTeR is given an opportunity. Oof. You know what? JimRising was already wise to that. He defends, he protects his base in the end. He's going for the surround. Oh my god, he wants it. He wants this army so bad. Oh god, it looks like he's gonna go for it. The Baileys, they find their connections. The zealots are not here. And given a little bit more time, we see a blink on 4. JimRising will catch all the zealots. Stalkers are going to be able to escape just barely. And as all this is happening, the zealot run by once again eviscerates the fourth base. 7 drones go down. And I was curious to see if JimRising was going to transition into lurkers from here as a natural transition from hydras. But no, he's going for ultras instead, which does make sense. Bearing in mind, we only have +1 range for our hydras, so they're not the most upgraded. All those melee upgrades that we got for the links earlier will be applied to these ultras, and ultras, they can do well against this, especially before Skytoss. But MasTeR is aware of the transition, whether it's going to be, oh my god, whether it's going to be lurkers or ultras. Immortals are on the way. JimRising tries to go for a bit of a Bane run by, doesn't get too many workers, but does take out a little bit of the infrastructure, the defenses. Not bad, not bad. Infestors coming in as well. We have pathogen glands. 3-3 on the way, kind of splating. And after all said and done, JimRising, you know, we've got a decent base count, we've got our 5th up and running, we've got 87 workers, we've got our hive, we're getting a pretty ideal army as well. It's all going to be about the engagement though. Thankfully for JimRising, we don't have too many immortals, so something like that ultra switch can work wonders here, if he can survive long enough. Again, we're still waiting for kindness plating, we're still waiting for our upgrades. Ultras are incredibly gas intensive as well, gas that JimRising doesn't really have right now. Oh my god, the infestors! We see one fungal going down, which helps a little bit, but the second infestor goes down as well. I don't know if this is really a fight that JimRising wants to take. Banelings are rolling on in, they find some decent connections, but the Hydras, they're feeling a little bit exposed here. Barely take down an Archon, but I don't know if it was really worth it in the end. Yeah, JimRising just has to go with this base. But it's okay, because me. Ultras are coming out. So good, puppy, so good. We're going to have ultras, we're going to have a fungal as well to lock down these stalkers. There we go. Fungal gets thrown down. Doesn't save the base, but does catch a couple of those stalkers. Oof. The infestor barely gets taken out. Unfortunately, we started with 3 infestors and none of them were able to survive this engagement. Does get the Archon though. It's so difficult to really call like how this game is going, because it feels like JimRising, sure, he's been losing bases, but I feel like he's been trading a little bit more efficiently. Like he's been taking out these high gas intensive units, like your Archons and your Immortals. He's been losing infestors in the process, to be fair though. Like it's very scrappy, very scrappy. But the ultras finally reveal themselves. We have kindness plating. We have ultra speed, I believe. Yes, we do. We do. And with 3-3 finishing up, like JimRising can finally take a good fight on creep. I feel like MasTeR should know that. Oh boy. Once again, another base being denied here, but it's okay because JimRising is double expanding towards the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Oh, and charged on Archon is not what we want right now. Token Swarm Host on the way, as to be expected. We always need that at least once. And here we go. The ultras are coming on in. We have to be so careful with how we utilize our infestors here. We don't want them to be caught out, and we want to make sure we land our fungals. As I say that, we land one fungal at the cost of a couple of infestors. The rest of the army kind of not taking part in this at all. And this is not going to be a good trade here for Jim. He loses 4 of his ultras. But it looks like he can afford it. Here comes the swarm burst. Let's go! Another fungal lands, and MasTeR himself is running out of steam. He's just been so inefficient with his trades. He's been losing Stalker after Stalker, Immortal after Immortal. And even though we may have lost all of our ultras, mate, we got 7 more on the way. JimRising has the economy to sustain this, apparently. GG gets called, and Jim with Ultra Infestor takes game number 1. Oh my god. I was so worried for Jim, especially after the opener. Bearing in mind, he lost, what, 24 drones? 24 drones. Jesus. But he was able to recover from that. It wasn't really about JimRising counterattacking. I don't think we can say that, but he just took really good engagements. I think MasTeR maybe was a little bit overconfident after the opener, because we saw him dive onto creep many times, and unlike we've seen previously, he didn't really have too much to support his stalkers. Like, he really lacked in oracles. He was never remaking them to make more stasis fields, to activate pulsar arenas, to protect the stalkers from the lings. Things got really out of hand really quickly there for MasTeR, and even though he wasn't losing a lot of workers, he just was losing more army. Like, he just, yeah, GG. I'm impressed. Oh my god. Baby links in the chat. Never mind. I thought you were struggling to remember the name of your own sons. Not my sons. JimRising sons. Son. Sorry, son. Shaking my head. God damn it. Of course I remember the name of my own kids. Most of them. Oh boy. Here we go. Here we go. Because we are spawning in game number 2 of our best of 3 semifinals match, and in the top left hand corner of Cosmic Sapphire we have our Brazilian Protoss player representing Amantes de StarCraft, struggling a little bit in that first game. It is MasTeR. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Cosmic Sapphire we have our Mexican Zerg player representing Los Macacos all over the world and Estral Esports. It is Jaime Arturo Duran Silencio JimRising. Or Papa Jim himself. Oh my god. It's crazy to think like how long it's already been. Like, what, his kid's, what, 6 months old already? As he throws down that salt can. The salt shaker, let's go. If you remember last game, Jim opened up with a gas first opener, and oh, here we go. Gas pool. You love to see it. Jim really doesn't want to take his unnatural natural. Very stubborn about it. Very stubborn. He will get it in the end, forces MasTeR to go into scout, confirming that our gas and pool have been taken. And what's important is that last game, even though Jim took a very fast gas and he never pulled out of gas, he was never really aggressive with it. He didn't throw down a Baneling Nest, he didn't throw down a Roach Warren, he only had 4 lings and droned up from there. The only thing he did with his gas was get ling speed, and from there get overlord speed as well. And then go to fast lair. So it was like, yeah, he just used the gas to be economic and focus on his tech more than anything. It was a pretty interesting take on things, and maybe because of the opener, it forced MasTeR to be a little bit more tentative early on, be a little bit more defensive. It was an interesting dynamic that we saw in that first game. But yeah, I was just saying how it's crazy to think like how much time has already passed. Fun fact, I remember when Jim announced his pregnancy, or his girlfriend's pregnancy, I should say. I remember when that happened. I remember there's a clip out there. He announced it on stream, and I remember his chat freaking out. I remember his chat being like, "Oh my god, poor kid," and everyone just like having a good time. Yeah, it's like, it's crazy to see like players grow up over time. You know, I remember watching JimRising back in the day, back in 2013, 2014, even before that, you know, like back when he was striving to become a pro gamer. I remember him for years trying to join Root Gaming as well, being that NA ladder hero on North America, and being like taken under the wing by Cats and everyone else. And to see him thrive, become a caster, become a personality, become a father, and still compete, it's really cool. It's really cool. It's inspiring in many ways. Very inspiring. Much love to Jim. Much love to Jim. Ooh. Meanwhile, his opener, just like the last game, he did end up gaining speed, goes straight into Overlord speed as well. Then he pulls out of gas, and with this, it's just a secure way to scout his opponent and make sure he's well aware of everything that's happening. His Overlord's confirming the third base timing, confirming the opener, the Stargate. So yeah, JimRising playing with full vision at the moment. It's really cool. And because of the pneumatized carapace, he should be able to save all his Overlords as well. Meanwhile, Lings rock up, but of course they're just trying to bait out that pulsar beam. They get us around, and there we go. With the activation of the beam, JimRising will be getting the hell out of here. Just continuing to drone, and hopefully this time JimRising isn't too greedy. If you recall, last time he delayed his spore at his third base, and he was punished for it when MasTeR dove in with triple Oracle, and he got 15 drone kills. It was disgusting. It was crazy. Thankfully this time, there we go, we do have a spore being thrown down, so JimRising is not going to be cutting those corners. He will be playing a little bit safer here, respecting his opponent's oracles as they move out across the map. And the spore finishes just in time. We have our queens in position as well, immediately reacting to said oracles. And once again, MasTeR is looking to go for that hero style, going for Blink as a follow-up. So very reminiscent of the last game, but JimRising does feel like he has a better start to things. Already we have +1 melee on the way, Evo Chamber as well. He wants to go for that Ling heavy style. Oracles dive in, but only get 3 drones for their troubles. I say only 3, I mean at least both Oracles did survive, but I expect this in. As MasTeR flies too close to the sun, he does end up losing one of the said Oracles. Working on a 4th Oracle behind this, so interesting. This time he's going for a more Oracle heavy composition, and I do think that's what he was lacking last game, so MasTeR as well also adapting to how JimRising has been playing. I appreciate it. And we'll see how things go from here. Again, JimRising just trying to be as greedy as he could be. I mean, his 4th was delayed a little bit, but it wasn't the biggest delay. At least it wasn't like a cancel on the base itself. Just a kill on that turn. From here, from +2 melee, he should be going into, sorry, +1 melee should be going into +2. He's going for a second Evo Chamber for +1 range as well. Looking to go into, I imagine, Ling Hydra again. Meanwhile, the aggression of MasTeR is commencing. We have our proxy pylon, we have our proxy gateway, stasis traps are being set up here. Last time JimRising didn't have a great time when it came to having eyes on this and avoiding the triggers of the stasis traps, so I worry a little bit for him as he's not going Hydra. Let's go. We have a Spire being thrown down instead. Whoa, first couple of stasis traps already being baited out here by Jim. Oh my god. Yes, be careful. Beautiful moves here as he gets a pulse around, but takes a massive stasis trap in the end. Going to be buying a little bit of time though. More Lings are on the way. Again, JimRising is known for his muta control. Once he has them, he can do anything with them. And already, even without the mutas, the Lings are getting a little bit out of hand. 4, 5, 6 Stalkers being focused down. JimRising holding on, +1 carapace, sorry, +1 melee already finishing up. And we don't have any more stasis traps to fall back on, so MasTeR has to back up. He has to calm down, either set up another field or just respect Jim's Lings and back the hell up. Ooh. And something important is really happening right now. The oracles are being forced back home because of this linear aggression. Other than, of course, the pulsar beams being used. If we look at the vision here of MasTeR, he hasn't been able to scout. The oracles are preoccupied. They're busy back at home protecting these stalkers. And because of that, MasTeR doesn't know about the Muta switch. And what a switch it's going to be, because look at how much gas JimRising has. Jesus Christ. 10 mutas are on the way. And you may be thinking, mutas, are they going to work well against this? Like, stalkers shoot up, we have +1 attack already, we have blink already. Is this going to be really ideal? Oh, mate, clearly you've never seen Jim with mutas, okay? He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Watch me eat my words as he loses all of his mutas. Ay. Meanwhile, here we go. Sick Transfuser barely keeping his queens alive. The mutas reveal themselves. Stage traps are going to be going off here on these lings. Without support, mutas are going to have a hard time engaging with these stalkers. So Jim has to be careful not to overextend. At the same time, Zealots are going to be harassing this third base. Muta's already here to respond, but Jim is going to be losing a lot here as a result. Or does he? He loses 1 muta? What? Hey, this is what I'm talking about. Jim overextends on stalkers, and yeah, finally he's gonna be losing a couple of mutas here, but honestly not that many. Only 3 mutas go down. Well worth it here for Jim. I mean, ideally you don't lose any, sure, but he wasn't really punished for it. Meanwhile, that's a lot of oracles. He's gonna be looking to just dive into the main base at the same time mutas are across the map. The adept goes down. The wall is not a wall. The links flood into the natural and into the main base. Mutas going unhindered, and MasTeR has to make a choice. The boys are being pulled. Drones are going to be going down. A little bit of a misrally there, but it looks like MasTeR is going to be all in, or at least he's going to be giving up on his natural base. And Jim's gonna have to make a choice. He takes out the Cyber Core, so no more stalkers are gonna be made to help reinforce. Oh, the stack defense as well as the overcharge is looking a little bit too strong here, so Jim cannot break through. He's gonna be forced to go all the way back home. Meanwhile, MasTeR has found his way into the natural base. The Spire is exposed. The lair goes down, and so will the Spire in 2 seconds. +1 air attack finishes, but it gets denied. Are we going to have a recall? We need to get the hell out of here. There is the recall in the end. Kind of worth it here for MasTeR. He took down the lair. He took down the Spire. No more mutas going to be coming out. He took down the 4th base, but Jim has the gold. Economically, I think that Jim is fine. Tech-wise, though, he's stuck with just making pure lane. Doesn't matter, though, because we have hit critical mass. 24 mutas are already on the field. That's a lot of mutas. Oh, the main base is looking exposed. I mean, this 3rd is heavily fortified, but that's not where Jim is. Jim doesn't care about the 3rd. He doesn't care about the 4th. He cares about the main. MasTeR clearly doesn't. As the main is going to be going down. Lair being remade. As soon as the lair is done, I'm sure we're going to be making mutas. I love how restrained Jim is right now. He hasn't made any more links. Like, he's banking up so much minerals and so much gas right now because he wants to go into mutas. There's a word for it. He's being very disciplined. I think that's what I wanted to go for. Because I feel like anyone else would just make nothing but lings, you know? Nothing but lings just to have an army to work with. But Jim is so confident with his map control. And I said going to mutas, but he's actually tech switching, which is even better. Instead of going to mutas, he's going to hydras. Something that I'm sure MasTeR would not expect. Meanwhile, the mutas are here across them at the same time. Lings try to go for a run by, but they run into a wall of cannons. The Lings aren't going to find too much there. Mutas just trading as best they can against these stalkers. The era of the muta has come and gone. It's okay. Hydras are coming in. 18 hydras. Oh my god. The bank has been spent. The choice has been made. We have the hydra switch. We don't have enough minerals to really go for it. We don't have any hydra upgrades either, but it's fine. Meanwhile, MasTeR going into a Templar Archive, so maybe thinking about going into Archons. Archons will help against the mutas, but again, MasTeR doesn't know about the switch. He doesn't know about the hydras. He also doesn't know about the lurker den. Oh boy. as MasTeR is stuck on 2 base economy, struggling to get a 3rd up and running. Mainly that's finally being thrown down. That's really the one thing that I wanted to say that was missing, especially when it comes to trying to break these cannons and try and get into these mineral lines. Mainly runwise would be insane. Unfortunately, we just haven't had them. Meanwhile, Muta's trying to catch the oracles. They do get tagged. What's important though is that the oracles get zoned away. They still haven't seen those hydras. And now they're about to reveal themselves. Lurkadon's about to finish up, but we may not even need lurkers for this, to be honest, as the hydras are here. Oracles go down one after the other. Chargers are going to try and do what they can, but where are those stalkers? They were distracted by the mutas. And as a result, MasTeR, he's just not going to be able to expand. That was a kill, not a cancel on the 3rd base. And without zealots, the hydras, they can trade fairly well against these wing stalkers. It's not the most efficient fight, I'll be honest. But JimRising, he's not about efficiency. He never has been, he never will be. He's making 25 more hydras, mate. He can afford it. It's fine. He's got the gold, papu. GG gets called. And JimRising takes the series 2-0. Oh my god. GG, well played. Wow, Jim still got it. Man, who needs to ladder? Who needs to practice StarCraft when you have so much experience under your belt? Now that Jim doesn't have to deal with SkyToss, he can get into his mutas again. He can get into his tech switches again. He was looking so dominant there as he takes the series 2-0 and he moves on to the grand finals. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Jim. And MasTeR, he gets knocked down, but he doesn't get knocked out, as he gets knocked down to the lower bracket here, where MasTeR is going to be going up against the winner of the Zerglord versus Sinner. Oh my god, as we have some updates. Oh, and it looks like they are already in game.